Hey guys, long time no see. It's Tyler as always. I wanted to talk about a few things, and I need your guys' feedback as to what kind of videos I should be making, what kind of topics you want to hear talked about, because it's been so long since I've made a standalone video relevant to RPGs in particular that it's difficult for me to sort through the list. I'm like, I want to do that, but then I've got a friend that wants to, oh, we should do that video together, and my schedule for too long didn't watch has been dog shit. It's just not lined up for me to do the YouTube thing or pretty much any of my hobbies. So yeah, apologies for the lack of videos. Right now though, it's just a 4 a.m. thought about the eponymous save or suck, which is to say, usually referring to spells, but effects that they either do something that gets rid of somebody's turn, it stuns them, or it takes control of their character, it mind controls them. But they roll a single die, and if they succeed at it, it just doesn't happen. You just lose your turn. So if you boil it down, psychologically, it feels like, oh, I don't do anything. He just spends a resource, and then either I lose my turn or he loses his turn, effectively. And that psychologically really stings. Oddly, even more so than losing your turn because your character died. Losing, uh, death, a spell that just flat out does damage, or a sword that just, I roll, I hit you, there we go. For some reason, psychologically, that's typically less annoying than, oh, let me roll to save. Oh my god, I'll lose my turn. Fuck. All right. Yeah. I got stunned. I got whatever. I find that part of this is the role play solves everything bit, right? If you actually play your character, holding their gut, reeling back from this, or, um, you know, staring glassy eyed into the distance, all of a sudden they stop speaking as this wizard starts to contort their mind and control it to do their bidding. Likewise, though, there is a mechanical issue to be spoken about here, and I don't know if I have a phenomenal solution to it, but I do have things that I'd be interested in attempting, things I'd be interested in making some changes to either Pathfinder or whatever game that you use that has these kind of magic or technological effects, or it can be even things just like the monk's stunning fist in Dungeons and Dragons. For a long time, it's nothing magic about it. You just punch somebody in the gut and they double over and they lose their turn. These sorts of things, can they be done well in RPGs? I think so. I think so, because if you know my channel, I'm primarily, if you want to use GNS, a simulationist. I think we should be trying to simulate the world that we're playing in. Not necessarily the real world. I'm not necessarily here for realism, but I'm here for groundedness. I'm here for believability. And these sorts of effects do make the game and the world more believable, in my opinion. So how do we fix this, case of that feeling bad? Well, again, taking your turns faster. That way, when you have a turn every 20 minutes and then it gets skipped because you fail to save, oh man, that sucks. So, cutting out a lot of the out of character questions, cutting out this will also help reduce the quarterbacking, the taking other players' turns, because a lot of times when the turn, the full game round is that long, is this, 10, 15, 20, 30-minute rounds, and then your turn gets skipped, well, what do? You end up wanting to help somebody else with their turn out of character, and you take turns by committee. Things end up just being slow and arduous, and everything grinds to a halt. Mechanically, though, what can we do? Well, I was thinking about it, And I was thinking about another mechanic that 3.5, Pathfinder, and a few other games have introduced in order to kind of tackle the balance part of it, which is spell resistance. So, okay, the caster actually needs to bypass spell resistance, then the creature has to make their save, then they might get stunned. Alright, cool. Well, it still doesn't do anything for things like Stunning Fist, for, just physical effects. And also, it's really hard to roleplay what spell resistance is. You can kind of conceptualize it, but is it like a physical aura that surrounds you that spells sometimes glance off of? For some, that's easy to visualize. For some of the like mind controlling magics or other things like that, really difficult to make tangible, right? So I was thinking that perhaps instead of additional rolls, which again slow the pace of the game down, every time that a creature succeeded a given save, their saves got reduced. So you succeed at this save, well, the next one's at a -2, the next one's at a -4, and so on. And you can keep track of this fairly simply. I don't have a die with me, but fairly simply by having a die set at 1, 2, 3, etc. And again, this is something I would only keep track of, and I think would only really matter with um, big, powerful, contentious enemies. Not anything else where a lot of the enemies you're running a coin flip either way, and that plus or minus 5-10% is usually negligible. Usually the fight's just won anyways, and I don't really like these sort of health tax fights in the first place, or these super busy fights with ton of ads, to borrow the MMO terminology, because again, they serve nothing other than to slow the pace of the game down a lot of the time. And I do not think these games need to be slowed down. Far from it, quite the contrary. That I've effectively borrowed from Pathfinder's poison rules, where multiple doses of a poison increase the save DC by 2. I thought that was always quite cool because it allows you to make poison quite deadly, quite difficult to save against in the right circumstances. But it's also not super slow. It's just one thing to keep track of. 2, 4, 6, 8. Just keeps going up and up and up. Not to an obscene degree, though. Other things that you could do is have the spell resistance be a sort of shell that has to pop and has to wear off. Think Divine Shield in World of Warcraft, where there's a doesn't matter how much damage, doesn't matter what spell that first incoming is, that will sort of pop that bubble. Then they can take effects from normal spells. I think that would be a really cool way to do it, because then it adds this layer of strategy, both from a game perspective and in the world perspective, of, all right, now even later in the game, my first level, my weaker spells have a purpose because I want to use them to pop this shield off. Or maybe because it's going to take me a turn or a standard action or the majority of a turn, whatever, to use this spell, and all I'm going to accomplish is setting up my next turn. That might be too slow, so maybe I just try to run up and hit him. Maybe the caster actually is encouraged to do something other than just slinging spells, and that can be really interesting in line with the party composition too. setting other people up to do bigger and bigger spells, have stuff actually go through. I think I'll try both of these out next, maybe not the next Pathfinder game I play, but in the future. Let me know what you guys think. Getting back into it, rambling video. You can probably tell my throat is a little sore here, and I'm having to pace my speaking due in large part to freaking flu going around. It's been a million different things, but yeah, I won't bore you with that, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are. Take care. See ya.